Good morning. It's Thursday, August 26th, 2021. It's a beautiful gray day here in Seattle. In the last episode, I didn't fully explain what this podcast was about, or is about. So here it is. I'm here to talk about the human experience. My audience is any human being that chooses to listen, and my hope, interact with. Whether we agree or not, I've chosen to hold space for anyone who wants to converse, not to persuade, but to simply share your point of view. Each person has their right to live the way they choose. I aim to move away from a black and white thinking or a right and wrong way of thinking. This podcast will cover a lot of things, but will always be accompanied by a film I've watched. More than likely, the movie I reference will somehow connect with whichever experience topic I choose to talk about. It's about connection before we leave this whole experience called life. Whether you believe this life experience is a simulation, or a prequel to a perfect world, or never given it a second thought, at the very least, let's make a connection together. The film I chose to watch was Norbit. It was made in 2007 by Eddie Murphy, and he plays a few roles in this movie, which is genius. I applaud any human being that can get into characters that way. There was also other great actors, Eddie Griffith, Cat Williams was in there. Clifton Powell. If you don't know who he is, and if you ever watched the Friday movies, he played Pinky. He played a record store owner, and it was a beautiful performance by that man. Terry Crews is in there, and the voice of Charlie Murphy. Very nostalgic to hear his voice because I grew up on him. I used to watch the Chappelle Show where he was featured on there quite a bit, and to hear his voice, it just brought back those memories of just fun times watching that series. This movie is a rom-com, and it has Thandie Newton also. I can't forget her, excellent actress from Australia. The genius of Eddie Murphy is quite astounding because he's written a story that sort of subdivides into three storylines that eventually come to one event to explode, to essentially break the tension. And so the movie ends really well. For those who haven't seen it, watch it. It's very kind of wacky, fun. It also shows what a lot of us go through in friendships and relationships. This whole idea of rupturing, meaning that there's so much tension and conflict between two people or three people or however many that it comes to a point where it just breaks and everybody kind of just parts because the conflict was so much. Eddie Murphy also communicates or shows through this story that there are moments to repair the relationship, to repair the friendships. I think we all can relate to. I think we've all sort of wondered what happened to that friend we had in college, whatever happened to that person we used to, be such good friends with. I know I have. I have a lot of stories like that, sadly, and I hope there's at least one person out there that can relate. But this idea of people who fall off from our lives, I've always wondered, are there moments where I can repair it? Do I want to? For my own mental health, can I repair this relationship? Or do I want to? And that's also something important to consider. Do you want to? Do you even want to? Because some people, I know for me, have been toxic, have been, I'm not using that word so loosely, but in the true sense of that word, toxic, it's very kind of this fermenting, this oozing, this pus, this very gross feeling you get after an experience with this person. So if you've had people like that in your life, and I would very much say consider rupturing that relationship because it might not be worth your health overall. Maybe there's a way to somehow repair it. I had a friend back in college, and I've been to 3 schools. So whoever knows me can take a wild guess at who this person might be, but I won't disclose their name out of respect. This person I knew for years while I was going to school. Very nice guy, very nice man. It was only, I guess, near the end of the friendship that I started to feel the tension, the unmatched mutuality that a friendship should have. A friendship needs to have this kind of mutuality of, hey, I respect you, respect me. I see you, you see me. It's been my experience that without a mutuality between 2 people, it's very difficult to cultivate friendship. It becomes this niceness. So back to the story. Things came back to a point of rupture during this whole George Floyd incident. And I had put up a tweet from my favorite comic, Conan O'Brien, and put it up on social media. It referenced God and humanity and how God should have, stuck with dinosaurs instead of humans. It was all done in humor, but he took it a step further and replied with, we are all God's children, and something to the effect of, you should know better. At least that's how I interpreted that reply. So I addressed it, but I reacted. I didn't respond. There are differences in that. And I reacted poorly. I can admit that, and I have. So that all happened. We stayed quiet for about a couple weeks. We weren't talking. We weren't communicating at all. And then in that 3rd week, I texted him saying, we should talk, clear the air. When we finally got together over FaceTime, I explained where I was coming from. I apologized for my part for reacting so poorly. But then there was silence. Quite awkward, quite strange, and I didn't know what to make of it. So we just kind of stared at each other for a while. I was hoping that he would apologize for his part, but it didn't happen. So I'm left to figure out or imagine what it is going on inside his head, which no one should have to do that. People should be able to communicate and talk about how they feel and talk about their needs and their wants. After I apologized, we just kind of stared at each other and we kind of left it that way. We said our goodbyes, and that was the last time I spoke with him. I decided not to have him in my circle anymore just because it wasn't mutual. It wasn't reciprocal. It was very much, in that incident, it felt one-sided. And that led me to think, what if this whole friendship is just one-sided? So, because my explanation could come across as confusing, that's essentially how I felt towards the end of the friendship. I was confused. And because there was no communication coming from his end, I was left to fill in the gaps of that story, to fill in the details. And no one should have to do that. Even in a relationship, the hope is that if there's something bothering the other person, or you're being bothered by something the other person does, that you can talk about it, that you can speak to one another in a safe manner, to where you don't have to worry about how that other person's going to react or respond, and that by confronting the issues, you're able to resolve and repair and move forward, knowing that you can trust a person to hold your wants and your needs and your feelings so that the relationship can grow. Well, I want to end this podcast with something I wrote at work last night. It says, "We live on this earth a short while, and why divide ourselves over minuscule things like religion and faiths? No person should feel excluded. Give yourself kindness. Give yourself love. Give others just as much, and maybe one day we will be able to sustain a connection with each other." I wish you well to whoever is listening. I hope that in the future we can connect and share our experience, our human experience. I will see you in the next episode.